Hey, I'm Jared Lanham, and welcome back to Refiner's Forge. So we are still in the Tucson, Arizona area, and I contacted Rich Greenwood, and he owns Desert Metalcraft, which is a blacksmithing school here in Tucson. And so he invited us over to come take a look at his shop and what he does. So I'm really excited, so let's go in and take a look. Well, hey, Rich.
Hey, man, how are you?
Great to meet you.
Good to meet you.
Yeah, so thank you so much for having us here at your shop. So what is Desert Metalcraft?
So Desert Metalcraft is basically a school for metal arts of all kinds. It kind of sets us apart is we put the metallurgy into it also, so the science behind it. I mean, we're teaching people how to mash metal and heat and beat, but we're also teaching them what's actually happening in that steel in that process.
What got you into blacksmithing?
I'd say, a buddy of mine called me up one day. He'd been bladesmithing for 35 years. He called me up and he says, I need a hand heat treating this sword. I go over there, I helped him heat treat a Japanese short sword, a wakizashi. And when I watched that sword go into the quench and deform and then switch back and get the curvature to it, and he pulls it out and he polishes a little window on it and shows the hamon, that was it for me. I was hooked.
So is this your full-time job now?
So bladesmithing for me and blacksmithing is still a part-time thing. I own a swimming pool company. I actually repair swimming pools for a living. And
swimming pools are pretty popular in Arizona?
Swimming pools are really popular in Arizona.
It's a good business to be in.
It's a good business to be in when the ambient temperature is about 110 degrees in the summertime.
Right.
Blacksmithing, not so much in the summertime. It's it's ugly. The second episode of Forged in Fire I was on, we filmed in June. One of the guys that was filming, one of the camera guys, he says, you got any thermometers around? So we put a thermometer up under the awning where I was working, and it was 145.
In Virginia, where my forge is, it doesn't get that hot, we hit mid-90s,
You got humidity.
Well, we got the humidity, so I'm just drenched in sweat. But at the end of the day, my jeans, I can take them off right now. What episode of Forged in Fire were you on?
I was on the very first episode of Forged in Fire, the premiere episode 1, season 1, the Japanese katana episode. And then I was also on season 3, episode 2, the Chinese hook sword episode. So I got to see the transformation of the show really go from, the beginning stages and the production, not really having a clue what they were dealing with as far as bladesmiths and blacksmiths go, to further, 2 seasons later, actually having an idea.
How long has the school of Desert Metalcraft been in existence?
So Desert Metalcraft's been around for about 6 months. We about 3 weeks ago did our grand opening party. We're on week 6 of an 8-week course, and finishing that up again in 2 weeks. That'll be our first class that comes to a close, and that's an 8-week knife making course.
Is that primarily what you're offering? Is knife making, blade making? What else do you offer here at the school?
So here at Desert Metalcraft, we're offering classes all the way from beginning blacksmith for people that have never swung a hammer before in their life, all the way through to advanced bladesmithing.
Are you the only instructor?
We're bringing instructors in from all over the country to teach classes. I'm doing all the bladesmithing courses. Liz is doing metallurgy classes, and Pete's doing the introductory blacksmithing classes. We recently had Don Lynn. He's a world famous chef's knife maker. He did a class on handle shape. And Ted McDonough, he's coming to do a class on mokamagami, trying to get the best of the best to come in and teach workshops and classes for us.
How do people find out about Desert Metalcraft and the classes you're offering and things coming up in the future?
So if you want to know anything about Desert Metalcraft, it's all online.
Okay.
The desertmetalcraft.org, Facebooks, the Instagrams, all of the social media outlets.
I'll try to provide a link in the description for desertmetalcraft.org. Students coming in tonight, and what are they going to be working on tonight?
Tonight they're going to be working on hand sanding, so we're getting out of that finishing process.
All right, so yeah, the students will be here, and we'll get to see what they do, and so yeah, let's get to it. This is a 50-pound Little Giant. Is that what this is?
This is based off the Little Giant design. It's actually what they call a 50-pound Wisconsin, or Wisconsin 50. It was made a little later than the Little Giants. It's a little bit newer. It's a 1917 instead of 1911. It's a mechanical hammer. Hits with 50 pounds of force and just runs all day long.
Something you use in your classes, or you let your students use?
Absolutely. I mean, when we get into the more advanced classes or the more advanced students, the power hammer helps out a lot in drawing billets, doing some of the heavy work when you're working with heavier materials.
Well, tell us about this sucker.
This is a 100-ton hydraulic press. It was originally used for hobbing, which is basically where you take a handmade or hand-carved die and press it into another piece of steel. And they needed that 100 tons of force to be able to do that. It's an up-acting press. So the cylinder's on the bottom, it presses up.
Pushes up.
Hydraulic press is an amazing piece of machinery. It makes everything just a little bit easier, especially Damascus.
Probably use it for is like the initial welding up of a Damascus billet.
That's almost what we use it for exclusively, is setting that initial weld on a Damascus billet. It helps out immensely. You know, you get that solid weld, you know you're solid. Go back to the forge, come back, one more squish, and then you're right onto the power hammer and draw that thing out.
So you don't use any coal forges, correct? I don't see any coal forges here.
We don't use any coal here at the school, and the reason being is in the city of Tucson, you're not allowed to use coal.
Oh, really?
Yeah, as a business, I believe, and don't quote me on this, I don't know for sure, but I think as a hobbyist in your backyard, I don't know that that law applies.
Okay.
It's unfortunate because, you know, we would like to be able to teach people how to use the coal forge. It's an invaluable, you know, thing to learn.
Yeah.
What is it isn't? Yeah, it's part of making a knife. Yeah. There you go. Windows. Normal. You want to make sure this is clean. Normal Windex. Because I'm going back and forth in both directions. Here's the key. You need to go straight both ways. I read the sandpaper.
You'll see.
You're running propane forges, right? So you got 3 forges here. A couple of them look like aspirated forges, and one's a forced air, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, this is my first forge. This is the first forge I ever built and used. I've been using it for about 7 years now. I've only relined it once.
Wow.
Just recently, we picked up this forge. It's a Yeti forge from one of my students. He started manufacturing these about 2 years ago, I think. It's a blown forge, so it's got a blower on it and a ribbon burner.
Right here.
It'll actually, you know, you crank it up and put some gas pressure to it, the thing will melt steel. It's pretty amazing, and it's got.
If you had one piece of advice to offer to a new smith, or maybe even a smith that's been in it for a while, what would you offer to them?
You know, for anything in life, I try to explain to people, you got to finish the first process before you move on to the next. And with my students in smithing and bladesmithing, blacksmithing, I try to hammer that into them, excuse the pun, but it's, you know, you've got to finish that first process before you move to the second, and you got to finish that second one before you move to the third. Because if you don't, you're always going to be looking behind you and working backwards. So my advice would be finish that first process before you work on to the next one.
If you're a new smith, maybe you shouldn't jump right into forging a gate or something.
Probably a great idea, but you know, it's basically whatever you're going to make. If you're going to make a hook, if you're going to make an S hook, you've made S hook before, make sure you get that taper just right before you throw that curve into it. you know, and just because if you don't, you're gonna have to back up, you're gonna have to unroll it, then taper it, because it's not gonna look right if you don't taper it.
So take the time to do the first process.
Exactly, take the time to make that first process right.
What do you see the future of the school in the next year or so?
I'd say in the next year or so, I'd like to see the school grow and expand just a little bit. I don't want to get too big too fast, but I'd like to see us grow just a little bit. I think we're on track to do really, really well over the next 5 years. And I say in the next 10 years, I'd like to have at least one more school in another state.
Well, hey, Rich, man, I really appreciate you letting me come and visit your shop, take up some of your time interviewing you. It was great to meet your students and, you know, see the process that they're going through. They're working on really fun stuff like hand sanding. That's always so exciting.
So you're going to look like T-Rex by the end of the class. You'll be just like this, hand sanding. It's unforgiving work.
Yeah, man, it's exciting to see your school start up and running, and it seems like it's just exploding off the ground, and so that's great, man. And thank you for letting me take a little time to forge. So
no problem.
And
Thank you for
I've
coming.
been away from my home forge for a while. I'm looking forward to getting back. So hey, don't forget to check out Desert Metal Craft if you're in the Arizona area or even outside. You want to travel here to take a class. Rich and his partners have some great classes going on, and they bring in guest instructors. So check out desertmetalcrafts.org and check out their schedule and see what classes they got coming up. And we'll see you next time on Refiner's Forge.